Part 1. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 1. Dong, dong, dong. A series of rapid knocks on the door, accompanied by thunder, woke Wu Wei from his deep sleep. After waking up, Wu Wei subconsciously turned over. As a result, he rolled directly off the bed. Fortunately, he was quick-eyed and quick-handed, so he didn't fall flat on his face. Wait. This is not a bed at all, but a simple bed with a broken door panel placed on two long benches. And this broken house, the stench in the house, and everything in front of him. Wu Wei calmed down. It was clearly the temporary dormitory where he lived when he was young and worked in the old brick kiln factory of Fatty Joe. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and his stomach was rolling with hunger. This is not a dream. Is he really reborn? After all, before falling asleep, he took his mobile phone and replied to a netizen's post, saying that if he could be reborn, he would change his way of life. Who would have thought that his words would come true after waking up? If I had known this, I would have wished to be reborn in a wealthy family and experience life in Rome. Soon, the urgent call from outside, accompanied by the sound of knocking on the door, interrupted his thoughts. Wu Wei, wake up, help, help. The boss was hit under the kill. God, what can I do? Something happened. Not only was he reborn, but he was also reborn on the day when Fatty Joe had an accident. July 18, 1986, the 12th day of the 6th lunar month. Before dawn, the old brick kiln, which had been in disrepair for a long time, suddenly collapsed under the scouring of heavy rain. It happened to hit Fatty Joe, who was anxious to see the bricks being fired and colored. Xiao Weiman, who was on night shift, was also affected. Human life was at stake. Without time to sigh too much, Wu Wei suddenly opened the door. I saw Fatty Joe's pretty wife Chinziru standing outside the door with a panicked look on her face. She was wearing a single shirt and thin pants, which had been soaked by the heavy rain. They stuck to her body, showing her plump figure. I have to say, this figure really doesn't look like a woman who has given birth to 2 children. Not only that, the top is made of dacron, which is soaked by water. It's the same as if she was not wearing anything. At another time and place, it really doesn't look like she is here to ask for help. Wu Wei's heart trembled. As a man who lived with her for half of his life in his previous life, seeing her young appearance at the age of 28, he still couldn't help but want to rush into the pouring rain. Seeing Wu Wei's disregard for the past and his selfless appearance, Chinziru's tears of regret suddenly burst out. If I had known this earlier, I should have persuaded the head of the family to listen to him. Spend some money to reinforce this old kiln. Instead of following the boss and denigrating him, saying that he was paid as a laborer but worried about the boss. In the end, not only did he not care, but he also went to save people without hesitation. In fact, Chinziru had completely lost her mind at this time. Wu Wei rushed forward so resolutely. It was not because of these things at all. But he felt that Fatty Joe might still be saved. As long as Fatty Joe was not dead, Chinziru would not look for him. Then he could marry her and start a family. It was that simple. The heavy rain was like a pillar, irrigating the brick kiln factory at the foot of the West Mountain. The several fish ponds formed by digging pits and collecting soil had long been flooded by rainwater and connected into one. So that the fish swam in the shallows and had nowhere to hide. The brick kiln not far away had already collapsed beyond recognition. The general location of the kiln mouth could only be seen from the suddenly rising Olala mist. When Wu Wei rushed to the kiln entrance, Pan the dwarf, who also worked in the factory, had been digging for a long time. Unfortunately, he didn't dig in the right place at all. Wu Wei saw that this was not going to work. If he continued to dig like this, Fatty Joe would be completely dead. So he took the lead and pointed to the exact location where he remembered the two were buried and said, "Pan the dwarf, dig here." As he spoke, Chinziru also followed. This helpless woman, regardless of whether Wu Wei was right or not, used her hands and feet to dig in the direction Wu Wei said. Sure enough, this woman really loved Fatty Joe. Even at this time, she still didn't leave him. I won't say more. Moreover, in her previous life, she had been married to him for more than 30 years, and she had slept in several beds, but she didn't have a child. At one point, Wu Wei suspected that there was something wrong with him. He secretly went to the hospital for several examinations. Now he finally understood. This woman had been using him from beginning to end. She just wanted to find a cow and horse, build a family, and raise Fatty Joe's 2 children. How could marrying into the family be the same as marrying in a formal way? Soon, Fatty Joe's fat face was exposed. Xiao Weiman's thin body was also exposed. Wu Wei took the opportunity to touch it, and his heart sank. Although the 2 bodies were still a little warm, it was the heat from being close to the kill. In fact, they had already stopped breathing, and their faces were almost dead. Xiao Weiman was hit on the back, and bleeding in his abdomen filled his mouth and stopped flowing out. I hurried and hurried, but I was still a step late. The gears of fate finally started to turn. Wu Wei and Pan the dwarf joined forces to pull the 2 out of the brick and earth pile. Chinziru rushed into the shack like crazy to pull the flatbed truck. Pan the dwarf was also a man of good sense. He let the heavy rain wash over his head and face, and asked with a sigh, "Wu Lao, are these 2 people gone?" Wu Wei nodded. He is the second child in the family, and his elder sister is married. There are 2 younger sisters left in the family, and they depend on each other for survival. As they were talking, Chinziru had already come over with a flatbed cart. Pan the dwarf stepped forward to stop them and said, "Boss lady, the person is gone, don't waste your energy." Chinziru didn't listen at all, and said with wide eyes, "He is not dead. This fat guy often pretends to be dead in front of me. I know him better than you." Pan the dwarf was helpless and looked at Wu Wei. Wu Wei stood up and was about to persuade him. At the door of Fatty Joe's house, the 2 children burst into tears. Wu Wei couldn't bear it, so he lifted up Fatty Joe's heavy body and said, "Pan the dwarf, give me a hand. Do your best and leave it to fate. Sending them to the health center is also the last effort. After all, it is 2 lives, and there are 2 complete families behind them, so there is no room for error." In the end, Pan the dwarf was left to take care of the children. Wu Wei was responsible for pulling the cart, and Chinziru followed by the side, stepping on the muddy ground of the kill factory to move out. Just as I remembered. Not long after leaving the kill factory, the rain stopped. So when Wu Wei pulled the 2 people to Daowen Village Health Center, there were already many people following behind him. Due to the heavy rain for several days, the young and old in the village could only stay at home and rot. Such a thing happened suddenly, and they were all called in immediately. Liang Yongzhao from the health center was a barefoot doctor. He wore a white coat and a stethoscope around his neck. He pretended to listen for a long time, and shook his head at Chinziru while listening. The villagers who were watching were all silent. Chinziru ignored him all the time, but just pinched and twisted Fatty Joe, calling him a dead ghost and a stubborn person. No one dared to persuade him. Until a younger and prettier wife rushed in, knelt down beside Xiao Weiman's bed, and burst into tears. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 2. This cry directly defeated Chinziru's last line of defense. The 2 of them burst into tears one after another. Taking advantage of this moment, Liang Yongzhao came to Xiao Weiman's bedside quietly. The stethoscope was on Xiao Weiman pretending to listen, but his eyes were always wandering on Yang Qiaoqiao. When Yang Qiaoqiao saw him, she thought there was still hope, so she grabbed his sleeve and asked, "Dr. Liang, is my man still alive? Please save him quickly. I beg you." Liang Yongzhao felt deeply affected and was about to say something confidently. He was interrupted by the village party secretary, Chiao, who came later and said, "Liang Yongzhao, put away your tricks. Don't even look at what's going on today." After being scolded by Secretary Chiao, Liang Yongzhao immediately took advantage of the situation and said, "Secretary Chiao, I was about to tell her that people are already dead and cannot die anymore." Wu Wei saw this and secretly cursed LSP. It seems that those romantic rumors about Liang Yongzhao in his previous life are not groundless. But there is nothing wrong with this LSP's vision. Yang Qiao, the new daughter-in-law, indeed looks more attractive than Qin Ziru. In addition, since she has never given birth, her potential in the future may be no less than that of Qin Ziru. At this moment, Secretary Chiao looked over and said, "Are people saved?" Wu Wei nodded. After all, except for him and Qin Ziru who were covered in mud, everyone else in the audience was clean. Secretary Chiao walked over to the front door with a filter and said, "Young man, you did a good job." Wu Wei took the cigarette obediently, said a few polite words, and took the opportunity to hide outside the door. That's it? Fatty Joe still didn't escape Liang Liang's fate. This means that the job in the brick kiln factory cannot be continued. As a result, the family's livelihood becomes a problem. Not to mention the daily expenses for food and clothing. The parents are no longer here, and as the elder brother, he still has to consider marriage issues for his third sister, Wu Xiaochun, and train his younger sister, Wu Zishun, to go to college. As for the married eldest sister Wu Shichun, she comes back from time to time to enjoy the autumn breeze, which is good. Other than that, don't expect her to share any of it. The crying behind him gradually stopped. Instead, it was Secretary Chiao's voice, making follow-up arrangements in an orderly manner. Seeing that he was no longer needed here, Wu Wei raised his feet and left. Not far from the village headquarters, I saw my third sister Wu Xiaochun staggering over. After seeing clearly that it was him, he quickened his pace. As a result, he accidentally tripped to the ground and fell flat on his face, but he didn't care about the mud on his face at all. He struggled to get up again and rushed over, "Second brother, are you okay?" As he spoke, he groped Wu Wei's body to see if he was missing any arms or legs or if he had any injuries. Wu Wei knew that this was after the third sister got the letter, so he couldn't wait to run over without asking clearly. So he picked up the third sister and walked away and said, "I was sleeping when the kill entrance collapsed, so I hid. Joe Poppy and Xiao Wyman are dead. They died when they were pulled out." "Great, great." Wu Xiaochun was still muttering in shock, even forgetting to wipe the plaster on his face. Seeing the second brother looking at her, he quickly explained, "I'm not saying that Joe Baby died well, as long as you are fine. A dead Taoist friend is not a poor Taoist. What's wrong with this simple concept? Human nature." Besides, it was his third sister who was the most sensible who said it, so Wu Wei would not blame him. He reached out and wiped the mud off third sister's face, and said with relief, I know. Then the brother and sister walked back, and when they got behind the Dong family, Wu Xiaochun realized it and said, "Second brother, such a big thing happened to the kill factory, I'm afraid it won't be able to continue operating. You can't save money to marry a wife, I'm afraid it will be even harder." Wu Wei thought to himself that no matter how difficult it was to find a wife, he could not get married. He never wanted to experience the feeling of being poked in the spine in his previous life. Of course, he still said calmly, "Don't worry, third sister, second brother has many ways to make money." Wu Xiaochun did not take this seriously. Of course she didn't know that the second brother in front of her was already a man of 2 generations. Not only did he have half a lifetime of social experience, but he was also proficient in bricklaying and even knew a little bit about carpentry. Really skilled people, real workmanship. Going to the city to get a job is not a problem at all. So Wu Xiaochan thought, second brother, how about we agree to exchange marriages with the Wang family in Xiaoling village? The Wang family's daughter is quite virtuous. Wu Wei asked back, why didn't Xianhui get married? The third sister stopped talking. Wu Wei said directly, it's not because his brother is Lame. He has hired matchmakers from all over the country, but he doesn't talk about his wife. These days I insist on changing my marriage. Either the family is poor and has no wife, like Wu Wei. Either he is missing arms or legs and is a burden, like Wang Leizi. The euphemistic name is, kiss becomes more kiss. But for the sake of his own happiness, he married the hard-working and kind-hearted third sister to a cripple? Wu Wei can't do this. He would rather be a bachelor than do it. In his previous life, he became the wife of Widow Qin, and there was also a reason why he wanted to put an end to his third sister's desire to exchange relatives. Okay, third sister, don't mention this matter again. Wu Xiaochun knew that the second brother was thinking about himself. But he still couldn't help but said anxiously, don't mention this, don't mention that, second brother, what kind of girl do you want to marry? Could it be that you want to marry someone like Xiao Yuyan, the golden phoenix in our village? Wu Wei stared at him and became a little anxious. No. Don't look at the fact that Xiao Yuyan was admitted from our village, is a teacher in the county, is beautiful, and has a good family background. Maybe, she really likes your second brother like me. Wu Wei said this, of course, not for nothing. When he dominated the square dance in his previous life, Xiao Yuyan was his most common partner. The two of them won many awards for Sunset in the district and the city, and they cooperated so well. Besides, he is young now, tall and strong, and he has some capital. Unfortunately, Wu Xiaochun didn't believe it at all, and mercilessly pointed it out, second brother, wake up, we are home. Wu Wei looked at everything in front of him, and he really felt like waking up from a dream. This is a family with 3 old houses that are eclipsed, 2 earthen houses that are in danger, and no yard. Even De Huang, who guards the house, can't find a wife. Not to mention people. Across the fence, the fourth sister Wu Zishun came out with the skinny De Huang. As soon as they met, she threw herself into Wu Wei's arms. She was as pretentious as an artistic young woman. Wu Wei didn't care to dislike the youngest sister's pretentiousness. He just looked at her patched clothes and felt distressed. Although the third sister also had a lot of patches, the youngest sister undoubtedly had the most. Because the youngest sister wore the old clothes worn by the third sister, and these old clothes were the leftovers when the eldest sister got married. The youngest sister was pretentious and sensitive. If she wore this to school, she would feel so inferior. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 3. Wu Wei, who was an elder brother in his previous life, was not so delicate and could not even think of this. It wasn't until Yao Mei graduated from the middle school and earned her salary that she dared to mention this to him. Otherwise, say it now. It's not a matter of inferiority complex or not. Instead, she will immediately be criticized by her third sister Wu Xiaochun for being ignorant. Children from poor families become sensible early and become masters of their own family early. Wu Xiaochun couldn't help but scold Yao Mei for being so pretentious when she threw herself into his arms. Fortunately, when Wu Wei saw that she was about to speak, he quickly patted Wu Zishun's little head and said, "You sister, go study hard. When school starts, my second brother will definitely make you a new set of clothes and a new school bag to go to school. If you don't say the result, just take it." When I said it, it really touched Zishan's heart. I burst into tears on the spot, crying so hard that I couldn't stop. It wasn't until the three siblings returned to the main room and sat down that they gradually stopped sobbing. But after crying, Zishan's little brows really relaxed a lot. After comforting Yaomei, Xiaochan thought of her second brother and said, "Second brother, are you hungry? I'll give you a bowl of cornstarch." Zishan immediately volunteered, "Third sister, I'll go." Xiaochan was worried, but Wu Wei pulled her back. She could only let Wu Zishan run to the kitchen and say, "Young sister, be careful, don't spill it. There is not much food at home. Sprinkle a little less. It's still early for the autumn harvest, so the only rice, flour, grains, and oils at home have to be eaten carefully." Wu Xiaochan couldn't help but be nervous and didn't care. Looking back, I heard the second brother ask, "Third sister, how much money do you have at home?" Although Wu Xiaochan was in charge of the money, Wu Wei was still nominally the head of the family. When asked about this, Wu Xiaochan said without hesitation, 45 yuan, 58 cents. "Go, give me 15 yuan, and I'll go to the county for a while." At this time, Wu Xiaochan asked, "Second brother, why did you spend so much money to go to the county?" Wu Wei did not hide it and said, "I am going to go to the county to get some work. Today I will buy some tools that I can use. After that," he added, "take out another 5 yuan, and when I get back, go to the kiln to burn a knife of paper for Fatty Joe." There is no need to ask about this. Fatty Joe burped to death. This was something he had to do. Although this fat guy usually makes a lot of money, in the final analysis, he is also the boss. The boss has died, and the workers below cannot avoid this kind of human interaction. Especially now that Chinziru is orphaned and widowed. If I really dare not to go, I will be stabbed in the spine by the villagers. When Wu Xiaochan heard this, he felt very distressed. What little savings the family had, suddenly lost half of it. The key point is that I don't know how long it will take for me to get back the gift money I gave out. Even so, she still gritted her teeth, counted out the 20 yuan, and placed it in front of her second brother. Wu Wei didn't even look at it, he just put the money on his body, then took the corn paste handed over by Yaomei, and said while grunting, "Third sister, don't feel bad. Before the end of the month, my second brother will definitely let you save a $100. 100 yuan doesn't sound like much. But Wu Xiaochan clearly remembers that since the death of his parents, the family's savings have never exceeded this amount. As for the eldest sister's marriage, it was all arranged by her parents when they were still alive, many years ago. A bowl of corn mush quickly went down. His stomach was only half full, so Wu Wei stood up and went to the water tank, scooped out half a ladle of water, and drank tons and tons of it. Finally, I was full of water. Then he waved his hand and said, "You two are staying at home. Second brother, I will go to the county to get some work. Regardless of whether I can do it or not, I will come back in the evening." As a result, he had barely taken 2 steps out when he couldn't help but turn around and said, "I'm not at home." Don't believe what others say, especially the words of widows. The 2 sisters were confused after hearing this, but they still nodded without knowing what was going on. Wu Wei was also taking precautions before they happened. Although in his memory, Chinziru came directly to him. If she can't save her life, she will do something to save the country. We walked to the village entrance in one breath and got onto the main road. There were still not many vehicles coming and going. The gravel road soaked by rain. My feet hurt when I walk in the middle, and my feet hurt when I walk on both sides. Even if you are riding a bicycle, the mud and sand wrapped in the wheels will soon fill up the roof until you can no longer pedal. Of course, Wu Wei doesn't have a car at all. These are fearless worries. But not long after walking down the main road, I saw several people parking their cars on the roadside, breaking off branches from the trees on the roadside, and picking mud from the roofs. Picking mud is a simple task that even children can do. So Wu Wei didn't think about stepping forward to help or anything. Until I saw an acquaintance wearing a dress with a lot of mud splattered on the skirt. He was squatting on the side of the road, pushing the early Yukon car in front of him, sweating profusely from his work. Unfortunately, the effect is not satisfactory. This person was none other than Qiao Yuyan, the golden phoenix who flew out of the village and had just graduated from the middle school and was working as a teacher in the county. The best partner for future square dancing. Just compared to the teacher Qiao in my impression. The Qiao Yuyan in front of her was much more graceful. Not only does he look taller, but even the back of him squatting there is particularly beautiful. Just like the person in the painting. But good looking is good looking, and Qiao Yuyan is not squeamish at all. She is no stranger to the work of picking mud. But what kept her busy and confused was that even though the cover on both front and rear wheels were completely scratched, why could the car still not move? Wu Wei smiled and said, "Let me take a look." Qiao Yuyan was caught off guard and immediately stood up and turned around. Seeing that it was an acquaintance in the village, she was relieved and smiled, "Then Brother Wu Wei, help me take a look." In fact, there were many people who offered to help just now. But because she was unfamiliar with him, she politely declined. An expert can tell whether there is a problem as soon as he stretches out his hand. Wu Wei took the pedal and found that it could not be shaken. Then he looked at the mud in the tiles of the front and rear wheels and found that it was clean. The rear wheel could turn by itself, but there was a lot of yellow mud left on the chain and the rear wheel axle. He immediately determined the problem. This was the mud wrapped in the tile of the chain, which clamped the chain. Of course, it could not be pedaled. After determining the problem, Wu Wei did not say much, and directly took out the only key on him and pried off the chain tile. Qiao Yuyan understood immediately and exclaimed, "Brother Wu Wei, you are so awesome." Then she volunteered, "Let me do the rest." Just because of this awesome, Wu Wei couldn't give up halfway and said, "Let me do it." "There is putty on the chain. It will be bad if you get it all over." "Thank you, Brother Wu Wei. You are a very nice person." "Oh, it's a small matter," Wu Wei said without turning his head. He moved quickly and cleaned the mud in the chain cover in no time. He reached out and shook it, and the rear wheel started to spin. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 4. Brother Wu Wei, you are so awesome. Qiao Yuyan smiled and naturally started chatting with her family. "Brother Wu Wei, what are you doing in the county?" Wu Wei stood up and clapped his hands, but found that he couldn't shake off the oil stains on the chain, so he walked to the canal on the side of the road, fetched some water to wash, and said, "Didn't the brick kiln in Zishan just have an accident? I have lost my livelihood, so I am preparing to go to the county to find some work." Qiao Yuyan had obviously heard about this. She had heard about Wu Wei's family situation. She felt pity in her heart and couldn't help saying, "It's a good opportunity for me to go to the county too, you can take me on this bike." Wu Wei came back to his senses, with a sunny face. "I dare not, if the master knows, he will break my legs." "Master?" Wu Wei slapped his forehead. He was used to calling in his previous life, so he blurted it out just now. Now that he has the skill, he hasn't even become a disciple, where can he find a master? Fortunately, he was alert and said, "I mean Master Qiao." Qiao Yuyan nodded slowly, "This is reasonable. But most of the villagers call their father Qiao Wei, and only people of the same generation call him Master Qiao. So besides being reasonable, there is a little bit of strangeness, but not much. But this little bit of strangeness is insignificant compared to the sunshine and cheerfulness shown by Wu Wei. Poverty and hardship did not crush this fellow villager. On the contrary, he exudes a kind of inexplicable aura. No, Brother Wu Wei. Besides, I haven't thanked you for helping me fix my bike." Wu Wei laughed and said, I'm not being polite. It's just that your bike can't support our weight. Besides, this road is not easy to walk on. It hurts your butt when you walk in the middle, and it hurts when you walk on the sides. So you go first, watch the road and don't get stuck in the mud. So Qiao Yuyan didn't insist anymore, smiled and said, thank you, brother Wu Wei, I'll go first. Wu Wei waved his hand and watched Qiao Yuyan go away, then he got back on the road. But because Qiao Yuyan's bike had 26 wheels and the road was not easy to walk on, even if he rode it, it wouldn't be very fast. In addition, Wu Wei was tall and strong, so he took 2 steps at a time. When the two of them really hurried, the distance between them didn't widen much at all. It was not until Wu Wei slowed down his pace and Qiao Yuyan turned onto the county road in front of him, and the two of them pulled away, that Wu Wei broke away and strode forward. Even so, it took an hour and a half to reach the county. At the Baiguan Bridge, more than half of the people who were looking for work were gone, and only 3 or 5 familiar people were left. Some were thin and weak, not good looking, some had no skills and could only work as laborers. Those who had a little strength and some skills had been picked up long ago. However, Wu Wei did not even have a handy tool now, so he had to go to the shop under the bridge to pick 2 tools. Soon, Wu Wei brought back a tile knife and a plaster trowel, spending a total of 13 yuan. He also bought 2 packs of Daqianmen with 1 yuan, and put the rest of the money in his pocket to buy knives and yellow paper to take to the Zishan brick kiln factory to pay his respects when he returned. Although after getting the job, the owner would not lack cigarettes for a skilled worker. But before getting a job, those who were killing time and asking for directions by throwing stones had to bring cigarettes to open the way. It was hard to start a conversation without cigarettes. At the Baiguan Bridge, there were even fewer people looking for work. I don't know whether they gave up and went back, or were recruited away. Anyway, Wu Wei estimated that it would be difficult to get a job today, and he would probably have to come back early tomorrow. Even so, he still squatted down and prepared to wait until dark. After all, it was not easy to come to the county. Without a 28-inch bicycle, you would have to rest for an hour or 2 every time. This squatting lasted for 2 hours. The only 2 people left at the bridge were all talked to by him, and their ancestors were checked out. One was a county man, in his 40s, with no skills and no strength. He had a mouthful of old tobacco teeth, and he smoked 3 Daqianmen cigarettes from Wu Wei. No wonder no one wanted him. The other was from Hedong, 30 years old, a carpenter in his prime. But because he had a broken finger on his hand, he was a bit disabled, so no one wanted him. When asked, he said that the broken finger was a work injury. But Wu Wei saw that the shape was not like that, and it was probably a mark left by a gambler. After figuring this out, Wu Wei felt relieved. At least it showed that there was still a way to get a job at Baiguan Bridge. Those who were slightly normal were probably picked up. For someone like himself who had decades of bricklaying skills, carpentry skills, brick making and kiln making, and could be called an all-round talent, he should not have to worry about not having work. He had an idea in mind. Wu Wei stood up and prepared to leave. If he squatted down again, he might not even be able to keep the paper boxes of his 2 packs of Daqianmen. Because these 2 poor families might not be able to find a job for a day or 2. His pockets were cleaner than his face. He really didn't care about his face when it came to smoking. As a result, as soon as Wu Wei stood up, he saw a middle-aged man with glasses getting off the car in a hurry. Looking at the 3 people at the bridgehead, he asked, "Are there any bricklayers?" The old man with cigarette teeth immediately came over and said, "Old brother, do you want a small worker?" As a result, the man with glasses almost vomited after he opened his mouth, and waved his hands repeatedly, saying, "No, no." In contrast, the fingerless gambler was very self-aware and did not move. So the middle-aged man with glasses finally looked at Wu Wei. Then he did not even stay for 2 seconds, and automatically passed by and prepared to turn back. At this time, Wu Wei could not be polite. I immediately introduced myself, brother, I am a bricklayer. The man with glasses turned around and said, you are so young, do you have any skills? Wu Wei walked up and handed over a Dakianman and said, to be honest, I have been learning from my master since I was 16. I worked with my master for the first 3 years and worked on my own for the past 3 years. I have also made many old customers in the county. If I hadn't come late today, I wouldn't have been left until now. The middle-aged man with glasses took the Dakianman and hesitated. Wu Wei lit a match and handed it over, saying, brother, if you don't believe me, ask them. This they naturally refers to the old smoker and the fingerless gambler. After all, he has used 5 or 6 Dakianman, and he can't just feed them to the dog. The middle-aged man with glasses looked over and saw the old smoker and the fingerless gambler, who swore, he is indeed late today. Okay, then follow me. This time it was Wu Wei's turn to be surprised and said, brother, it's so late today, let's get up early tomorrow. Unexpectedly, the middle-aged man with glasses said, oh, it's just a small project, it was done casually. Helpless, the customer is God. Even if people don't believe in God nowadays, they are still the parents who provide food and clothing. Wu Wei had to follow him and asked as he walked. Brother, my surname is Wu, and I am the second child in the family. What's your name? My surname is Fu, and your sister-in-law's surname is Zheng. How big is the project at home? Why are you so anxious? Oh, it has been raining for several days, and the wall of the courtyard at home has been washed down. During the day, I was busy buying sand and cement. I was delayed until now, and I just remembered to recruit people. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 5. Brother Fu, next time you encounter this situation, you have to find a master first. The master will buy those materials. He knows the ins and outs, and it will definitely be cheaper than you. When the middle-aged man with glasses heard this, he was immediately unhappy and his words were not right. Oh, you are walking too slowly. Get in the car and I will take you. Wu Wei shut up decisively. And then he didn't bother to be polite with the other party. He lifted his legs and got on the back seat. During the day, he politely rejected Xiao Yuyan. It was a kind of etiquette to keep a distance between men and women. After all, she was the precious daughter of his master in his previous life. He had to love and protect her. But with the impatient man with glasses in front of him, there were no such rules. Anyway, you told me to sit. But Brother Fu's car is really solid. Especially the frame of the back seat, which is so solid that it hurts my butt. Fortunately, home is not far away, and it won't take long to get there. Sister-in-law Zheng was mixing cement and sand in the yard. Wu Wei saw the old sister-in-law's figure and immediately understood why Brother Fu was so uncomfortable sitting in the back seat. It was probably changed on purpose. However, when Wu Wei entered the door, the fat sister-in-law did not despise him for being young, and asked right away, brother, have you eaten? If not, I'll go get you something. What a nice person. Since you mentioned it, Wu Wei scratched his head and couldn't refuse. But if he agreed directly, Brother Fu would be unhappy. He looked at the corner of the collapsed courtyard wall. The 2-meter-high courtyard wall collapsed for about 5 meters. Except for the pillars at the corners, which were 24 wide, the other walls were 18 wide. The broken bricks and tiles had been cleared out, revealing the half-high brick wall below. Brother Fu, sister-in-law, this amount of work will take at least half a day. I will work harder and try to finish it for you today, so you won't have to worry tomorrow. I can work faster if I fill my stomach. The fat sister-in-law stuffed the shovel into her husband's hand and said, Hurry up and mix the sand and cement. Once my brother is full, we will start working immediately. We will finish it today. Brother Fu took the shovel and spit into his palm. As a result, he accidentally spit too much, and immediately exposed the truth of his amateurism. The cement and sand are not mixed evenly. After flushing with water, the mortar prepared is not good for wall construction. In order to save a little money, the couple personally took on a lot of responsibilities. Maybe this is the key to the collapse of the courtyard wall at home. Otherwise, how can the red brick wall built with cement mortar fall so easily? Seeing this, Wu Wei grabbed the shovel from Brother Fu's arms and spat into his palm with great momentum. Then he started mixing with a shovel. The technique and the skill made it possible to clearly see the progress of the mixing. This showed that he was an expert. Brother Fu pushed his glasses and had a different opinion of Wu Wei, a young man. It turned out that the work of bricklaying and wall building was not something that anyone could do casually. Thinking of this, he once boasted to his wife that even a dog could do it. Now, wasn't he even worse than a dog? Soon, the fat sister-in-law came out with 5 steamed buns and a bowl of vegetables. When she saw that Wu Wei was mixing the cement and sand, she criticized her husband and said, "You said you sit in the office all day, and you didn't seize the opportunity to exercise." Then she said to Wu Wei, "Brother, come and eat. Let me do it over there." Wu Wei saw that he had almost finished mixing. He stuck the shovel into the cement and sand pile, washed his hands under the faucet in the yard, wiped his body randomly, took the steamed buns and the bowl of vegetables, squatted down and started to eat. The bowl of corn paste he had for lunch, with a bucket of water, had already turned into several bubbles of urine after running around. So facing the 5 big white steamed buns, Wu Wei finished 4 in one breath. He could finish the remaining 1 if he wanted to. But he had to leave a good impression on the host and not let people think that he ate everything without leaving anything. But he finished the vegetables. After all, even if he left half a bowl of the dishes, the host would probably throw it away, which would be a waste. After eating and drinking, he had oil in his stomach. Wu Wei felt full of energy. On the other side, Brother Fu began to fetch water from the faucet tremblingly, preparing to mix cement and sand. The fat sister-in-law here just complained that he was slow. These 2 small workers, one has no brains, the other has no strength. Together, they are not as good as a small worker. Wu Wei saw that it was getting dark, and he could not wait any longer, so he could only take the circle of water pipes in the corner, connect it to the faucet, and twist it with pliers and lead wire. In this way, when the faucet is turned on, the water is directly poured on the fully mixed cement and sand. Then he handed the water pipe to Brother Fu, and Wu Wei took the shovel from the fat sister-in-law and began to mix the cement and sand wire from the inside to the outside, in circles, into the water vortex in the middle. Seeing that the water was almost poured, Wu Wei directly commanded, "Turn off the faucet." It is definitely a waste of talent to ask a master bricklayer to do this. But the owner has no objection, so Wu Wei doesn't mind. Anyway, he is doing the work of a small worker, and he still gets the wages of a master worker. The same thing, in the eyes of Brother Fu and his wife, is a different feeling. This young man is a good person. Not only does he have skills, but he is also not arrogant. In the past, those big workers were used to being ordered around and would never do such a thing by themselves. Soon, the cement mortar was mixed. The fat sister-in-law also brought the bucket over. The rest of the work of moving bricks and transporting mortar has little content. Pure strength work. Wu Wei stood at the corner of the wall, preparing to start erecting the 24 pillars. As a result, Brother Fu, who is a good teacher, couldn't help but question, why start from the middle instead of building from both sides? And you didn't pull the thread or spill the lime, so you're not afraid of making my courtyard wall crooked? Wu Wei said directly to the fullest, "Brother Fu, it's really messed up. I won't charge you a penny. Why don't you come over and see if the two broken walls of your house are crooked? Although Brother Fu is nearsighted, he is not blind. According to Wu Wei's instructions, the wall is indeed crooked, but it has not completely fallen down. What should we do? Wu Wei inserted the tile knife into the basin, cut out a piece of cement mortar and said, first build the two walls straight from this corner, and then look at the joints. If it doesn't work, push it away. Brother Fu has nothing to say. In the past, those bricklayers were not so particular, but this courtyard wall fell down twice in 3 years. Today, this young man looks young and his actions are unusual. Not only that, but he also has a very upright attitude and says whatever he wants. Brother Fu was thinking, Wu Wei's men didn't stop. The 24-column wall grew taller visibly to the naked eye, and the tile blades were flying up and down, which was like flowing clouds and flowing water. So much so that the couple responsible for moving bricks and carrying mortar couldn't keep up with the rhythm, and they kept going back and forth without resting for a moment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 6. I was busy until the evening. It was approaching 10 o'clock, and all the neighbors turned off their lights and fell asleep. These two sections of the Fu family's wall can only be completed. At the interface between the new wall and the old wall, there is obviously a deviation of half a brick. If it's hard to connect like this, it can be connected. But that would not look good and would be unreliable. Wu Wei dropped the masonry knife and left the issue to the couple to consider. As a result, the couple thought about it for a long time and then brought the issue back. Master Wu, you are good at craftsmanship and strong in ability. You can do whatever you say. Wu Wei suggested, let's do this. I'll come over tomorrow and we'll dismantle and build at the same time. We'll build it to a place where the deviation is not big, and then get some cement to smear the joints. It will be much stronger. The fat sister-in-law immediately said, I'm afraid it won't look good if you just wipe it down with just a slit. Wu Wei nodded, that's for sure. The fat sister-in-law made a quick decision, then wipe it all off. Master Wu, do you think you might be busy? The construction period was extended and more wages were earned. Wu Wei couldn't get what he wanted, so how could he be so busy? I have no problem, sister-in-law. We will buy the materials tomorrow, and I will try to finish them for you in 2 days. The fat sister-in-law pressed down on Brother Fu to prevent him from speaking, and asked directly, how much material will it take to plaster all the walls of my courtyard? Small courtyards in the city are not as big as those in the countryside. After all the calculations, the courtyard wall is only about 20 meters. The 2 floors inside and outside are 40 meters, and the height is 2 meters, plus the margin left by the door pillars. Consider spreading it a little thinner. I quoted the fat sister-in-law the amount of 1 square meter of sand and half a ton of cement. After all, if you oversubscribe, exceed the budget, and the owner quits the job, you will be the one to lose. As a result, the fat sister-in-law gritted her teeth and made up her mind, okay, then wipe it all off. Wu Wei washed his hands under the faucet, okay, I'll go back today and come back early tomorrow. The fat sister-in-law was also quite humane, and urged Brother Fu to use the 28 big bar to send him to the Baiguan Bridge entrance. Even so, it was almost 12 o'clock when Wu Wei rushed to Zishan Kill Factory on his legs. Even though it's late at night, Fatty Joe was still playing and beating in the morning hall, which could be heard from a long distance away. Wu Wei and his wife were empty-handed and had no time to buy yellow paper. Now I can only bite the bullet and go to express my condolences. Fortunately, when I first entered the kill, I met Panchesi who was about to leave. I caught him and asked him, and he actually got a knife of yellow paper. Pan Iz bought this yellow paper and planned to go to express condolences to Xiao Weiman tomorrow. After handing it over to Wu Wei, Wu Wei directly gave him 2 knives of yellow paper money and said, "I have work to do tomorrow, so I won't go to Xiao Weiman's side. You can burn a knives of yellow paper for me, and I won't give you any more gifts." These days, the first thing to do when dealing with favors is whether there is such a relationship, and the second thing is to see whether there is such strength. There was no contact between the Wu family and the Xiao family. Burning a piece of paper to kowtow is considered a sign of etiquette. Pan Ziazi sighed, agreed, put his feet up and left. Wu Wei dusted off the mud on his body, picked up the yellow paper knife, and went straight to the morning hall. When the drum group next to the morning hall saw someone coming to express their condolences, they immediately started playing hard. As soon as the drum music started playing, people immediately became much more solemn. Especially the sound of Suana that directly touches the soul. But he couldn't think of how good Joe Poppy was and pretend to be sad. Because whenever I think of Fatty Joe, I can't help but think of this guy's face of deducting wages and making fun of himself for being too lazy to worry. It would be good if you just leave without turning around. Still want to show sadness? So Wu Wei didn't have any trouble for himself. He kowtowed in a polite manner and worshipped, and then he was done. When the worship was over, Qin Zairu, who was kneeling beside her, kowtowed with her 2 children, who were fighting with each other. If you want to be pretty, be filial. Seeing Qin Zairu's return gift, Wu Wei had to admit that it was quite eye-catching. Not only her facial features are perfect, but her figure is also exceptionally plump. Especially the protruding hips, which look extremely fertile at first glance. In addition, he is less than 30, which is the time when he is full of charm. Unlike Yang Qiao, who is ignorant and unpretentious. It's not like Qiao Yuan, who is just waiting to bloom, trying to cover up but still being ashamed. In fact, it is Cao's favorite and Ximen's treasure. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fallen into her trap in my previous life and been exploited for half my life. The ceremony is over. Wu Wei came to his senses, stood up and left. I can't let the Cao thief get involved in this life again and make the same mistakes again. As a result, Qin Zairu stopped him with just one word. "Brother, don't leave yet. Let me pay your wages, clear Fatty's account, and let him leave cleanly. Besides, you helped so much yesterday, and I haven't even had time to thank you yet." Thank you or not, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that Wu Wei heard that money was going to be distributed. Of course you can't leave after giving out money. Third sister only had $25.58 left in her handkerchief. Although I have started to make money, no one will be satisfied with having too much money. What's more, he deserves the money. After saying that, Qin Zairu stood up with the support of her 2 children and said, "Brother, come with me." Wu Wei was stunned. He had originally made up his mind to stay as far away from this woman as possible. Don't be alone unless absolutely necessary. In his previous life, he had lived with her for more than 30 years, and he knew the depth of this woman very well. But for this salary, for the 2 sisters, Wu Wei could only grit his teeth and follow. The 2 of them walked around the morning hall one after the other and headed straight for the Zhou family's main hall. The sound of drums and music behind them also stopped suddenly. It was late at night and no one came to pay their respects, so the drum and music group was happy to be lazy. Smoke, drink water, and take a nap. But once the drums and music stopped, the originally deserted Zishan brick kiln was only echoed with the unlucky cry of the old crow. Qin Zairu pushed the door open and turned on the incandescent lamp above her head in the dark. While Wu Wei was getting used to the light, she closed the door. Wu Wei looked at everything in front of him and felt like he was revisiting an old place. After marrying into the family in his previous life, he lived here for 2 years. It was not until he became a disciple and learned skills, and then returned to restart the brick kiln and earned money that he demolished and rebuilt the main hall. Wu Wei was full of emotion. Chinziru took off her mourning clothes, poured a glass of water, sprinkled tea leaves on it and brought it over, saying, "Drink some tea first, wait for me." After saying that, she went into the inner room, leaving him alone. After a while, Chinziru came back. At first glance, except for the paper, pen, and banknotes in her hand, there was no difference. But Wu Wei found that there was a faint smell of vanishing cream in the air. He laughed in his heart, but Wu Wei remained calm. Chinziru sat down opposite, spread out the paper and pen and said, "You worked a total of 17 days this month, and the wages were 2 yuan a day, a total of 34 yuan. But you have made great efforts in the fat man's matter, so I won't say anything more." Speaking of this, Chinziru spread out the banknotes in her hand, which were 10 big unity. "That's all the money, don't think it's too little. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 7. Chinziru hadn't finished speaking yet. Wu Wei took the stack of datongja and put all of them into his pocket. He was the one who took advantage of the situation and put the money in his pocket. He didn't forget to be polite at the end, "Thank you, boss lady, I don't mind the small amount." Chinziru was stunned, but her brain reacted quickly, "You don't mind the small amount, but this money is not enough for you to marry a wife." Wu Wei stood up and said, "Don't bother the boss lady about this matter." Chinziru stood up and said, "How can I not worry? Back then, you came to the kill to work just to save money to marry a wife. Now that you haven't saved enough money, the kill has collapsed, and the boss is gone. As the boss lady, I always have to think carefully for you." This excuse, she found, is perfect. No wonder I was always led by her in my previous life. This set of tricks is really high level, making it hard to guard against. Wu Wei had to stop and ask, could it be that the boss's wife wants to recruit me as her son-in-law? No dowry, no 3 transfers, just wait until life is good, and then give me a baby. This is what Chinziru said before. Now Wu Wei brought it up, and it caught her off guard. Going her way, she has nowhere to go. Chinziru was really panicked, and even her breath was a little messy, saying, "Do you think, okay?" Wu Wei smiled casually, "What virtue do I have? You should find someone else." After saying that, he pulled the bolt and went straight to the dormitory to pack up and leave. When he got home, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. The neighbors had already gone to bed, and everything was silent, with no light or shadow to be seen. Wu Wei was too lazy to knock on the door, and he climbed over the fence next to him. De Huang, who guards the house, is familiar with his breath. Wags his tail left and right around him, and will never bark. After stroking De Huang's head, Wu Wei put down the blanket and went to sleep in the house without waking up his 2 sisters. 3 hours later, the clock in the main room just struck 4 and the chicken in the yard crowed for the first time, and Wu Wei sat up. He rubbed his face with both hands. While waking up, he felt a little swollen. He had only worked for half a day, but his hands were already calloused. He didn't care about these things, got dressed and got out of bed. He went out and scooped up some water from the water well to wash his face and neck, and rinsed his mouth. That was all. Children from poor families should not be too picky. There was only 1 towel for the 3 brothers and sisters, and Wu Wei, a rough man, naturally would not fight with his 2 sisters for it. As for toothbrushes and toothpaste, they could not afford them. Or to be more precise, the 3rd sister did not have the budget. Perhaps because of the noise he made while washing, Wu Xiaochun rubbed his eyes and walked out the door. "Second brother, what time did you come back last night?" Wu Wei reached out and wiped the cold water off his face. 1 o'clock. "I didn't wake you up because you were all asleep. I brought back all the bedding rolls from the brick kiln factory." From now on, the brick kill factory has nothing to do with me. Then why did you get up so early? I got a job in the county, so I have to go there early. That's great, second brother. By the way, this money is for you. It's the wages settled by the boss lady of the kill factory, and a thank you gift for saving her man. Wu Xiaochun took the money and saw that it was all in great unity, a full 10 pieces, and he was so excited that he jumped up and down. Brother, second brother, I didn't see it wrong. This is 100 yuan. Pinch me quickly. Wu Wei couldn't bear to really pinch. Okay, look at your silly look. Take this money to cut half a pound of meat today, and cook a dry meal in the evening, so that you two sisters can improve your life. In addition, buy a piece of cloth to make a new dress for Zishun to wear when school starts. Unexpectedly, Wu Xiaochun took the money and said, no, this money has to be saved for the second brother to marry a wife. Wu Wei waved his hand, no need, the second brother will work in the county every day in the future, and the hard-earned money will save your dowry for Zishun to study. Wu Xiaochun thought about it and said, then leave this money for the second brother to buy a bicycle. With a bicycle, you can sleep more in the morning and get home earlier at night. Bicycles are indeed a necessity. But no matter how urgent it is, it ranks last after food, clothing, housing, and transportation. So Wu Wei didn't even think about it, and said without question, okay, listen to me. Let's eat and dress well first. Wu Xiaochun said unhappily. It's true that she is a very opinionated sister, but once it is a decision made by the second brother, she will not easily disobey. Second brother, wait a minute, I will heat up the leftover sweet potato porridge for you last night. Is it not rotten yet? I soaked it in a basin of cold water. Poor people have many folk remedies. Even so, the warm porridge was a little tasteless when it was brought to Wu Wei. But Wu Wei didn't say anything and drank it in one breath. It's not even half full, but it's better than nothing. The sky gradually brightened, and the starlight above his head gradually faded. Wu Wei put on the broken straw hat at home and set off in the morning light. Although his stomach was half full, he still had a lot of energy in his young body because of the dinner at Brother Fu's house yesterday. Along the way, Wu Wei walked fast and fast. It took him only an hour to reach Brother Fu's house, and he was not even out of breath. As a result, he ran into Brother Fu and his wife having breakfast. The couple hurriedly gave way to them. Wu Wei couldn't refuse, so he had to sit down and eat. He ate 3 steamed buns and a bowl of porridge, and even half a plate of side dishes. And this was the result of Wu Wei's restraint. Otherwise, with a strong body in his 20s, he could have eaten all the food on the table. After eating, Wu Wei found that this meal was not in vain. Brother Fu didn't say anything, but pushed his fat wife over and said, Master Wu, you see, we have to buy a lot of cement and sand today. You are an expert, so you must buy it cheaper than us. Yes, you should be grateful for what you have received. Wu Wei agreed without saying a word and said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Then he took the opportunity to ask, can you lend me Brother Fu's bicycle? This way I can go and come back quickly. Brother Fu was naturally willing to do it. So Wu Wei quickly rode his bicycle and headed straight to the east of the city. This place is close to the Grand Canal, and the river sand produced here is both cheap and good. Many self-employed households also import some cement from the county cement factory to sell together, and their business is good. As soon as Wu Wei arrived here, he went to talk to each one. While focusing on comparing prices from 3 different stores, he quietly revealed the fact that there was a construction team behind him. Some people didn't believe it. But the name sounded so real that one had to believe it. After a round of chatting, Wu Wei pocketed half a pack of cigarettes. When the deal was finally concluded, he received a package of Dakianmen and a big unity from the boss named Cheng. Watching Wu Wei go away, Boss Cheng looked bitter. He didn't make a penny from this cubic meter of sand and half a ton of cement. The meager profit from the business of 100 yuan was all given to this bricklayer. Alas, I hope he can keep his word and introduce more customers to him in the future. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 8. Wu Wei went home happily. Although he took kickbacks, he still saved some money for the master, Mr. Fu, and his wife. It wasn't much, but it was still about 10 yuan. After all, 1 cubic meter of sand and half a ton of cement didn't cost much in total. This is called a win-win situation. When they returned to Brother Fu's house, the couple looked forward to it. Master Wu, where are the cement and sand? Wu Wei parked the car and picked up the tile knife and said, I will deliver the goods to your door later. When the time comes, you can pay the money and the goods. I won't get involved. This matter was handled openly. Brother Fu and his fat wife looked at each other and immediately felt that they had made the right choice. Wu Wei, on his side, started working without waiting for the new cement and sand to arrive. He was so diligent that people had nothing to say. There was a half-brick gap between the straight new wall and the crooked old wall. Wu Wei used a tile knife and skillfully knocked down the crooked old wall one by one until he could reach the part that was not crooked. The red bricks knocked down were still intact and could be used again without any delay. After doing all this, a tractor arrived at the gate of the courtyard. Boss Cheng delivered the goods in person. Wu Wei stepped forward and greeted them, introduced them to the Fu couple, and took a cigarette from Boss Cheng, then turned around and went about his own business. We agreed not to get involved, so we won't get involved. Without any hesitation, the Fu couple stayed behind, guided Boss Cheng to unload the goods, counted the money, and happily sent them away. Looking back, the couple calculated and found that they had saved 11 or 12 yuan. This was not a small amount. Not only did they not suffer, but they also saved money. What else was there to be dissatisfied with? Turning around, they met a neighbor passing by, and when they talked about the repair of their own courtyard wall, they praised Wu Wei to the sky. After all, the couple repaired the courtyard wall twice in 3 years. I have never met such a good master who is worry-free. Not only did he do a beautiful job, but he also did things in an open manner. It is hard to find such a master even with a lantern. In this way, the reputation of Wu Wei, the bricklayer, has spread. Although the spread may not be very wide, it is at least a good start. After a day of hard work, the courtyard wall was completely repaired, and a small half of the cement wall was painted. It was more than enough to finish the work in another day. When I returned home after the work, it was already dark. The two sisters had already eaten dinner. Xiaochun was cutting new cloth under the lamp. Because it was the first time, her hands were shaking. Seeing this, Zishun next to her was nervous and couldn't even read the book. After all, this piece of new cloth was torn for her to make new clothes. If it was cut badly, wouldn't it be a complete failure? Seeing this, Wu Wei counseled, "Third sister, be bold in cutting. It doesn't matter if you cut it badly, you can just buy new ones." Xiaochun let out a sigh of relief, but put down the scissors first and said, "Second brother, you must be hungry, there's food in the pot, I'll go get it for you." As a result, when Wu Wei finished washing his hands, Xiaochun's meal hadn't been brought over yet. Wu Wei didn't urge her, guessing how much pressure third sister must be under at this moment. Zishun still didn't understand. She complained to him, "Second brother, I told third sister to take the fabric to the tailor shop to make it. But she insisted on making it herself to save the 50 cents processing fee." Wu Wei didn't indulge fourth sister, "Why are you worried? Anyway, before you go to school, your third sister and I promise to make you a new dress. Go read your book." Zishun's tears welled up in her eyes immediately after hearing these words. Wu Wei ignored her and picked up the scissors that Sanmei had put down. He cut along the chalk line on the fabric with a click. He did this not to save the 50 cents like Xiaochun did. But he knew that Sanmei was interested in tailoring and had been thinking about it for a long time. The clothes at home were patched again and again, and they looked more beautiful than those of other people. Wu Wei encouraged Sanmei's dream of becoming a tailor, so he had to build her confidence. When Wu Xiaochun came back with the warm food, she was shocked and said, "Ah, second brother, have you finished cutting?" This time Xiaochun began to regret it. If she had known earlier, she would have cut it herself. At least she could ensure that the cut cloth would be neat and tidy without any rough edges. Second brother is a man, and he has never practiced, so how can he have such knife skills? As a result, when she put the bowl in Wu Wei's hand, she couldn't wait to pick up the cut cloth and take a look. Hey, it's strange. This skill of cutting fabrics is even more neat and succinct than mine. Second brother, where did you learn this? Wu Wei said nonchalantly, "It's enough to have hands, isn't it?" Then he looked at the fat in the bowl, which was greasy. I'm afraid that the third sister regarded it as a good thing and kept it for herself. After all, nowadays, everyone's stomach is generally short of oil and water, and fat is more expensive than lean meat. Unfortunately, Wu Wei has lived 2 lives, and he is a little sick of fat. Even though this fat is more fragrant than the fat in the previous life. Looking up, Zishan was still crying over there, and she didn't stop. This child, she just has too strong self-esteem. If you say a few words to her, she will have to digest it for a long time. Wu Wei suddenly had an idea, picked up a piece of fat and pushed it over, directly to the fourth sister's mouth and said, "Don't cry, I'll give you all the fat, isn't it enough?" As he said that, he fed a piece of fat and greasy fat into her. Zishan stopped crying immediately. She begged for a long time today before her third sister gave her a piece of fat meat. Now the second brother can keep the fat for himself. Forgive him. Wu Wei naturally didn't expect that he could coax the fourth sister into being with just a piece of fat. It's too late, it's fast. As soon as Zishan swallowed the first piece of fat, the second piece of fat came to his mouth. Seeing this, Xiaochun hurriedly came over to stop her. "Second brother, what you do outside every day is strenuous work. If you don't eat some meat, where will you get the strength? Fourth sister can eat a piece, don't spoil her too much." Before she finished speaking, this mouthful of fat meat was fed directly into her mouth. Xiaochun was caught off guard and couldn't spit it out and waste it. I can only hold down the second brother's right hand to prevent him from pinching it out anymore. But the aroma of fat meat bursting out in her mouth instantly filled her barren taste buds. So delicious and satisfying. Not only that, Wu Wei also vowed, "Third sister, do you know why you were so afraid to use the scissors just now?" Xiaochun looked confused and reluctant to open her mouth. "I'm afraid that the oil and water in my heart will spill out. It's because you don't eat enough meat, your courage is weak, and you are always hesitant when things happen. So you should eat more meat to strengthen your courage." So the 5 or 6 pieces of fat meat in this bowl were fed to the 2 sisters by Wu Wei for one reason or another. The 2 sisters couldn't help shedding tears of happiness as they watched their second brother dig out a whole bowl of rice with the few remaining pieces of lean meat and plum beans. Eat and drink enough. Wu Wei took a shower in the yard where the fourth sister had been drinking water for a day. Then he moved the bed to the yard, put down the mosquito net, and fell asleep. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 9. This sleep was so deep that even thunder and lightning could not stop. Wu Wei was completely unaware that Zishan had fumigated his mosquito net with mosquito coils and used a flashlight to catch mosquitoes for him. He was really too tired in the past 2 days. He didn't sleep for long, but he did a lot of work. When he woke up, the clock in the main room had just rung 4 times. There were still many stars twinkling in the sky in the yard. Wu Wei opened the mosquito net door and sat on the edge of the bed, but saw the flames in the kitchen. Third sister Xiaochun had already started to prepare breakfast for herself. The kitchen pot had no chimney, and the faint smell of oil was all wrapped in the smoke, and she could not get out of the low kitchen. So Wu Wei couldn't smell it in the yard, but Xiaochun in the kitchen was choking. Wu Wei got out of bed in his broken plastic slippers and walked to the door of the kitchen, only to smell the smell of egg pancakes. Seeing that he had woken up, Xiaochun coughed twice and said, "Second brother, I just washed your clothes yesterday. I'll put the 10 yuan in my pocket on the millstone for you." Wu Wei slapped his head. If the third sister hadn't told him, he would have almost forgotten. Then he said directly, "This money was just earned yesterday. Go buy towels, toothbrushes, and other toiletries today. You are grown up now and can't always use the same towel. If you like vanishing cream or something, buy it too. Don't be stingy with money. Second brother can still earn more. Which girl doesn't like to be clean? If conditions permit, they all want to dress themselves up white and clean, beautiful and beautiful." So Xiaochun held back the words when they were on the tip of her tongue. In fact, she had wanted to buy these things a long time ago. And if she controlled herself, the family's savings could still be maintained at more than 100 yuan. The goal that the second brother promised to achieve by the end of the month was achieved early. After that, Wu Wei went to wash up. When she changed into a clean vest that was washed white, Xiaochun had already put the egg pancake on the millstone. Next to it, as usual, there was a bowl of corn paste and a plate of lumps of vegetables. Wu Wei picked up the chopsticks and saw the third sister return to the window in the inner room and pedaled the sewing machine. Behind him lay the fourth sister Zishun, who was still asleep. Wu Wei said as he ate, "From now on, don't be too frugal on food. Second brother can make money now, and he can get money back today." At this point, Wu Wei remembered and said, "The host will probably have a celebration banquet tonight, so don't make my portion for dinner, otherwise it will be wasted. In the dog days, vegetables will go bad if left for half a day. Not to mention a whole night." Wu Xiaochun hummed without raising her head. When the second brother finished breakfast and went out, she raised her head and looked at the millstone through the window. There was still half of the egg pancake left in the bowl. Just after 6 o'clock, Wu Wei rushed to Fu's house. Today he came late on purpose to avoid the host's suspicion of coming to eat for free. Although he left half a bowl of egg pancakes at home, he saved it for his 2 sisters. His young and strong body was not full at all. Unexpectedly, the fat sister-in-law left breakfast for him. 3 steamed buns and a plate of vegetables. He had to eat it. Under the kindness, Wu Wei ate it all in one go. Then he turned gratitude into motivation and helped others finish painting the wall seriously. Not only was the courtyard wall built upright, but after painting the cement surface, it was just like new. When the neighbors saw it, they all praised it. The fat sister-in-law smiled. In the end, there was some cement mortar left, and Wu Wei did not waste it. He applied it all on the top of the wall and embedded a row of glass shards. Not only does it look colorful under the sun during the day, but it can also prevent thieves at night. It is also ingenious. Seeing his intention, the fat sister-in-law specially invited him to a meal with wine and meat. Finally, the wages for the 3 days were settled. According to the wage of 3 yuan a day for a skilled worker, it was calculated as 3 full days, and 1 yuan was added to make it round. Plus 2 packs of dakianmen. Adding the 10 yuan kickback, in 3 days, 20 yuan was earned. It was much easier than working in a kill factory, and I earned more. But then again, if Fatty Joe had listened to his own advice and repaired the old kill that had been in disrepair for a long time, not only would he not die, but the quality of the red bricks he fired would be better. Tomorrow, when the price of goods goes through the barrier, the price of bricks will rise. Just lie down at home and make money. This is not Wu Wei's imagination. It is something he experienced after marrying Qin Ziru in his previous life. It's just that the money earned from lying down in the brick kiln at that time all went into Qin Ziru's pocket, and he didn't get much. It was equivalent to working for Qin Ziru for nothing. In this life, if there is a chance, Wu Wei wants to take over the brick kiln factory. No need to worry too much. Just repeat the successful experience of the previous life. By then, no matter whether it is the dowry of the third sister, the tuition of the fourth sister, or even the money for the renovation of the old house, they will all be there. But now is not the time to think about it. Just save some capital first. After eating the celebration banquet at Brother Fu's house, Wu Wei went back early. It was still early when he returned home. Xiaochun was still busy with Zishun's new clothes. Although it was not finished yet, it was certain that there was no failure. This was the first time that Xiaochun made new clothes, and she was able to do it so smoothly and successfully at once. It can be seen that she has some talent in the clothing industry. Second brother, do you want to make you a bowl of noodles? No need, Wu Wei patted his belly and said, today is the celebration banquet of the host family, I am very full. As he said that, Wu Wei took out 10 yuan of wages and handed it to the sewing table of the third sister. Wu Xiaochun's eyes lit up and wiped his hands on his body. Then he took the 2 bills and counted them again and again. Actually, there was nothing to count. 2 5 yuan bills, a total of 10 yuan. Xiaochun's mood immediately improved. By the way, second brother, I also bought you a towel and a toothbrush today. Wu Wei was not surprised. In the previous life, the third sister was so good to him that Qin Ziru was instantly turned into scum. Even in this life, it would be extremely difficult to find a woman who treats him better than the third sister as a wife. Wu Wei hummed. Then the third sister continued, by the way, second brother, the brick kiln factory is holding a banquet tomorrow. It's just right that you have finished your work in the county, so you can go. Wu Wei thought about it. Yes, the gift money has been paid. It would be a waste if you don't eat. But delaying making money for a banquet is a bit of a waste. Wu Wei was not happy again. He made an arrangement, you take the fourth sister to the banquet tomorrow, and I will go to the county to find work. But be careful, no matter what Qin Ziru says, don't believe it. Come back early after the banquet, I have paid the gift money. Zishun was overjoyed when he heard that there was a banquet. He ran over and lay on Wu Wei's shoulder, looking at him with a burning look. Second brother, you have become so powerful since you came back from the kiln factory. Xiaochun listened and thought about it. It was true. Wu Wei was too lazy to explain, and said directly and shamelessly, your second brother, I have always been very powerful, but you just didn't find it. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 10. In late July, the power of the dog days of summer was fully released. In such weather, eating and drinking is not a pleasant experience. But in the era of food shortage and clothing shortage, whether the experience is pleasant or not is not important. Whether you can fill your stomach and have a good meal is the most important thing. So early in the morning, the drum and music band of the kiln factory started playing. Many sheds were built inside and outside, but they were not enough. The prominent people in the village received letters and came to pay their respects and sit. From time to time, the singing of the guests came from the morning hall. The ups and downs of the voice announced the arrival of the prominent people in the village. After paying homage, Secretary Chiao visited the family members Qin Ziru and the 2 children, and then got together with the village elder Lao Getu and accountant Li who arrived earlier. After the 3 of them lit up their cigarettes, Secretary Chiao exhaled the first puff of smoke and said, Fat Joe died in a glorious way. Old Ge nodded, and as he spoke, smoke came out of his mouth and nose. He said, Chinziru has done him justice. When it was Accountant Lee's turn, he said something unexpected. Fat Joe has made a lot of money over the years, right? It shouldn't be difficult for his wife to find someone to remarry with the money he left and the 2 children. Secretary Chiao did not deny it directly, but only said, I'm afraid it won't be easy. Accountant Lee insisted, Chinziru still has some capital. Although she gave birth to 2 children for Fat Joe, she is not old. As long as she is willing to have another baby, what's the difficulty in remarrying? However, Chinziru, who was in mourning in the mourning hall, did not care whether her dead husband died in a glorious way. Since being rejected by Wu Wei last time, Chinziru was not angry. On the contrary, she looked up to him from the bottom of her heart. The less you can get, the more you cherish it. Chinziru thought that as long as Wu Wei agreed, everything would be fine. Even if they really had a child, it would be fine. But she would have to wait until she saw Wu Wei to say these words. Unfortunately, the Kill Factory was busy with music and dancing, and Wu Wei had not shown up until around 10 o'clock when the first row banquet was about to begin. Just when she wanted to ask Pan the dwarf, Wu Xiaochun came over with Wu Zishun to kowtow. Funerals are different from weddings. If there are men in the family, men usually attend to show respect for the deceased. And Wu Wei would rather be stabbed in the back than show up. Chinziru knew that it would definitely not work out today. At the same time, Wu Wei came to the home of a family surnamed Qi in the west of the city. He met this host early in the morning at the Baiguan Bridge. After all, it is not difficult to recruit workers if you have skills. Once is new, twice is familiar. He took a look at the project on the spot. It was not large, just 18 walls with a length of 5 meters and a height of 3 meters. Divide the large room upstairs into 2 so that the son and daughter can each have their own independent rooms. And bricks, stones, and cement are all ready. In addition, 2 small workers are called over. In total, it is only 1 day's work. Wu Wei asked for a pair of labor protection gloves, picked up a tile knife, and started working directly. At first, the efficiency of cooperating with the 2 small workers was not high. When Wu Wei took the time to spread a big front door for the 2, it immediately became smooth. It was busy until the evening, when it was getting dark. This wall has been built. Since the owner did not need to brush the wall with cement, Wu Wei used the back of the tile knife to help them fill the seams. This makes it look more beautiful. Even so, he only received 3 yuan for 1 day's work and a pair of broken gloves with untied threads. He didn't even give him a pack of cigarettes. Not to mention a celebration banquet. Of course, Wu Wei can understand. For a small 1-day project, the owner usually doesn't care about any celebration banquet. It was good enough to have a lunch included. But when I left, I heard the 2 workers greet the host. Wu Wei did not stop them. To put it bluntly, they just met by chance and at most they smoked a cigarette together. How dare they stop them? Maybe they thought that you only make $3 a day, so it's easy to talk. After all, they only make $1.50. It's not easy to make money. But fortunately, as long as you have skills, it's not difficult to find similar odd jobs. Diligence can make up for lack of talent. After a busy day, I returned home and my 2 sisters were still waiting for me happily. The third sister Xiaochun brought out a new bowl with 2 big fat and tender meatballs hidden in it. Wu Wei took a look and didn't care about the meatballs, but he cared about the bowl first. He said anxiously, Zhou Baopi is not a happy funeral. You can have a banquet, but why do you take their bowls? Xiaochun was also anxious when she heard it. She vaguely understood this rule. No matter how good the bowls from the funeral of a short-lived ghost are, they cannot be taken home, as it is unlucky. Only the longevity bowls from the funeral of a happy person can be taken, as it means that a bowl means evening, and it is auspicious. But how could Zishan, who was only 14 years old, understand this? She just wanted to help her second brother grab a big meatball. Xiaochun knew that she was shy and it was not easy for her to risk it for her second brother. So she did not stop him. Wu Wei saw that his words made the third sister stunned and the fourth sister cry. He understood it at that time and immediately changed his words. It's okay, the second brother is strong, we are not afraid of these. Go and warm up the meatballs and make a bowl of rice, I'm hungry. Soon, Xiaochun brought a bowl of rice over, and the two big meatballs on it were steamed. The oil and water in it soaked into the rice below. It smelled delicious. As for the bowl, it had been replaced with a large bowl from home. Wu Wei did not ask where the new bowl was thrown. Wu Wei simply mixed the loose meatballs with the rice, and put his mouth on the edge of the bowl, shoveling and turning the bowl. On the one hand, he was really hungry. On the other hand, it was a habit formed by long-term lack of food and clothing. He ate while saying, when you two went to the banquet today, Qin Ziru didn't do anything weird, did she? Wu Xiaochun shook her head, no, Qin Ziru stayed in the morning hall all day and didn't show up much. Zishan added, she went back to the room to rest for a while. Wu Wei secretly complained in his heart. I hope this woman will give up when she sees difficulties, and not always cling to her like she did in bed. When he came back to his senses, he heard Xiaochun change the topic and said, today is also the day when Xiao Weiman is dying. The Zhou family is much more pompous than the Xiao family. Everyone says that Widow Qin is much better than Widow Yang. Hearing this, Wu Wei immediately blurted out, what nonsense is this? Qin Ziru can make the decision on Zhou Baopi's funeral. But Xiao Weiman's parents are still alive. Can Yang Qiao, a young wife, make the decision? That's the truth. But when these young girls and wives get together to gossip, they don't care about these things. They just want to have a good time. It is said that Yang Qiao just got married not long ago and didn't raise a child. She remarried just like that. Unlike Qin Ziru, who dragged 3 children, no one would want her even if she wanted to remarry. So Qin Ziru is really sad, but Yang Qiao may not be. Wu Wei shook his head and didn't agree. In her previous life, Yang Qiao was pregnant with Xiao Weiman's posthumous child and never married. But Qin Ziru took Zhou Baopi into her family before his body was even cold.